Today I'm going to talk about the concept, yes, I will, and how I've used it in my sailing career and in my life to date. So I'm a professional solo sailor. It's quite an unusual career path, and it's been quite an unusual path that I have followed to get to it. There's been lots of obstacles and challenges along the way that I've had to meet, and I've had to kind of develop some tools to meet these. So we're surrounded by positivity. We're here today to celebrate yes. I don't know how many times we've said yes today, but a lot. And we're told all the time, you can be whoever you want to be, you can achieve your dreams, you can do whatever you want to do. And what I want to kind of drill into today is the difference between things that we can do and the things that we will do. So there's, of course, a limit to our competence, but we're often limited by our confidence. So solo sailing is a very technical sport. I need a certain amount of competence to do that. I can't just say I will be a Formula 1 racing driver tomorrow. Can't do that. Or I will bake somebody's wedding cake on Saturday. I'm never going to say I'm going to do that. The solo sailing is, I suppose, quite a niche part of sailing. So solo offshore sailing, again, is a more niche part. So a solo offshore sailor is somebody who goes to sea by themselves, sails offshore, so away from land, for days, weeks, or months at a time. I was doing it professionally, so that meant I had a professional campaign, everybody got paid, I had commercial sponsors that I had obligations to, and we built the campaign together. But to get there was a bit of a wiggly line of a path. So I had quite, like a couple of the other speakers today, quite a standard, went to school, went to university, trained as an engineer, and I was working as an engineer in an office. And it took somebody else coming into my life and offering me a job as a sailor for me to realize that I actually had the competence to be a solo sailor. It had been a dream of mine to sail solo around the world since reading Ellen MacArthur's books as a child and seeing the image of her standing on her boat sailing around the world. But it wasn't something that I believed that I could do. So somebody coming and offering me a job as a professional sailor showed me that I had the competence to do it. It showed me, yes, I can do this. This is something I can do. But it took a few more years, me working for other people's sailing teams, before I realized, actually, if I want to achieve this, I have to change my mindset to, yes, I will do this. And that's what I did. So I quit my steady job for another sailing team. I decided I was going to have a solo sailing career. I went out on my own, physically and financially. I had to kind of nail my dreams to the mast, say to everybody, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. And that was pretty scary, because it was very vulnerable. And how I did that, how I made that change, was mentally in my head. I said, I'm going to enter this solo race, the Solitaire de Figaro. That was my big goal for that year. I wrote down the calendar for the year. I entered all the races. I mentally committed. I got off the sidelines, went out on the pitch. I left nothing behind and just said, I am going to do this. And that switch inside myself that was turned, I think it was visible to other people, because people came along with me on the journey. My sponsors got on board. My friends and family supported me. People could see that I was gaining momentum. And so that switch for me, from this is something I can do, knowing I could do it, to saying, yes, I will do this. I will do this race. I will compete. I will set up my own campaign. That was a really important switch in my head, and that's what made the difference. And that's kind of a macro example of how that has worked for me. But also, in solo sailing, at sea, you have a lot of challenges as well. And so there's some micro examples of where that yes, I will, kind of using that determination and using some self-belief to achieve your goals has really served me very well. This picture is from the end of my very first solo race that I ever did. So on the start line of my very first solo race, I was about to start, 2 seconds before the gun goes for the start line, my autopilot stopped working. Now, your autopilot is really important if you're a solo sailor, because your autopilot can steer the boat for you as you navigate or adjust the sails or eat, go to the toilet, or crucially sleep. And just a little side note on sleeping in solo sailing, you don't do a whole lot of it. You get 10 or 15 minutes at a time, maybe an hour a day if you're lucky, slightly longer for the longer races. But on the short races that I do around Europe, you're operating on about an hour a day. So that hour a day is very important. I was on the start line this race, no functioning autopilot. So I had two options. The first option didn't seem very attractive. That was to carry on and just steer the boat myself for the next 3 days. I thought, okay, I can't do that. And then the second option was to turn around, give up, go back into port. And when I thought of that option, I almost surprised myself in my reaction, because my heart just broke. There was no other way to describe. I just burst into tears. I said, no, I've worked so hard for this. There's absolutely no way I'm giving up. So I said, right, well, back to option one then, which is continuing the race. And at that stage, I actually didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew that I kind of had this tooth-gritting determination. There's no other way of describing it. Tooth-gritting determination. I will finish this race. Like there's no other answer here. I will finish it. And so I ran downstairs and I grabbed whatever I thought I might need. I had about 20 seconds, grabbed stuff, stuffed my pockets, and went back up on deck, sat down in the steering position of the boat, and I steered. And I steered non-stop for 42 hours to the end of the race. And that was such an achievement for me when I arrived at the finish line and telling the other sailors I had no autopilot. They're like, what? You're crazy. And these are other solo sailors as well, so their idea of crazy is... and there was a couple of tools I used during that race that were really important to me. The first was, I suppose, the knowledge of my own commitment, my own effort that I'd put in to get to that place, but also the effort and the belief that other people had put in my project. So in the darkest hours, at 3 a.m. when it was windy and wet and cold and I just wanted to sleep, what I was doing was I was imagining that people, sponsors, friends, supporters, were sitting beside me and giving me advice and telling me what I thought they would say. Keep going, Joan, you're fine, only another few hours till it gets bright. And I was kind of drawing on the fact that I had all these people behind me and using that to help me achieve my goal. And I've given a couple of very nice, I suppose, neat examples of how you can use determination and self-belief, but life isn't always neat or straightforward. I've just had 2 children in the last 2 years. They're Irish twins, not real twins. And life is very busy. But motherhood has really thrown up a lot of questions for me. I went into this adventure of motherhood as a professional athlete with goals, with ambitions. And this has been the biggest assault on my resolve yet. I didn't even know if I would want to be a solo sailor at all when I came out. And now we're kind of crawling out of the trenches on the other side. I can start to see and feel that my resolve and my ambitions are kind of slowly reconstructing themselves in the background. And I know that over time, at the moment, my focus is my family. My focus, I don't want to go away for long enough to do any race, let alone to sail solo around the world for 3 months. But it's starting to kind of get back into my subconscious. I might be changing nappies and I'd be thinking, God, I wonder if Pampers would sponsor a solo around the world race. Or I'm pushing the buggy up the hill and a little picture in my brain is me in the Southern Ocean pushing a sail up across the boat. And so I know that things are kind of knitting themselves back together. The foundations of the ideas are still there. And also I know that the building blocks I've put down already, those building blocks, that transfer of can I do it to yes I can do it to yes I will do it, that experience will stand to me. And I know that when the balance tips because the balance has already started moving. But when the balance is tipped, and I say, okay, that's it, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to do the solo around the world race, that I can unleash a dam of resources that I've built up to help me achieve that goal. And that helps me be a bit less worried about it. And I think it's really important that we don't underestimate what we've already achieved and what that can do to help us achieve what we're doing next. So that is how I have turned a question, can I do something, to a statement that yes, I can do it, and then another statement that yes, I will do it.